The midday sun beat down on the quiet suburban street, the kind of place where nothing ever seemed to happen. That was about to change. Officer Miller, his uniform crisp and his ego inflated, swaggered over to a parked sedan. His partner, Officer Davis, a younger man still easily influenced, followed a step behind. Inside the car, a young woman named Sarah was on her phone, waiting to pick up her younger brother from a friend's house. Miller rapped his knuckles sharply on her window, making her jump. "Ma'am, license and registration, now." His tone was anything but polite. Sarah, slightly flustered, fumbled in her glove compartment. "Of course, officer. Is there a problem?" "The problem is you're parked in a no-parking zone," Miller sneered, though the sign was faded and barely legible. He snatched the documents from her hand. As he looked them over, a smirk played on his lips. He clearly enjoyed the power he wielded. "I'm sorry, officer. I didn't see the sign. I'm just waiting for my brother. I'll move right away," Sarah explained, her voice calm and respectful. "Ignorance isn't an excuse," Davis chimed in, trying to sound as tough as his partner. "We're going to have to write you a ticket." Sarah sighed. It was an inconvenience, but she wasn't going to argue. "All right, I understand." But Miller wasn't done. He seemed determined to escalate the situation. "You got a real attitude problem, you know that?" he said, leaning closer to her window. "Maybe we need to teach you some respect for the badge." This was getting ridiculous. Sarah's patience started to fray. "Officer, with all due respect, I've been nothing but cooperative. I just want to pick up my brother and go home." That was the wrong thing to say. Miller's face hardened. "Get out of the car, now." Sarah's heart began to pound. "For what? I haven't done anything wrong." "For failing to comply with an officer's orders," Miller yelled, his voice echoing down the street. He yanked her car door open. "I said, get out!" As Sarah stepped out of the car, her hands slightly raised, Miller continued his tirade. He got right in her face, his voice a low growl. "People like you think you're above the law. You think you can talk back to us?" "I wasn't talking back. I was asking a question," Sarah said, trying to keep her voice steady. Suddenly, Miller's hand shot out and he slapped her across the face. The sting was sharp, but the shock was worse. Tears welled in her eyes, not from the pain, but from the sheer disbelief and humiliation. Davis just stood there, looking uncomfortable but doing nothing. "Let that be a lesson in respect," Miller spat, a cruel smile on his face. He scribbled a ticket, shoved it onto her windshield, and then they got back in their patrol car and drove away, laughing. Shaking, Sarah got back in her car. She touched her cheek, the skin still burning. This wasn't just a ticket. This was an abuse of power, a violation, and she wasn't going to let it go. She drove away, not to her brother's friend's house, but to a different destination. A place where she knew she could find justice. The next morning, Miller and Davis were lounging in the precinct break room, recounting their version of the previous day's events. They painted Sarah as a defiant troublemaker, and the slap as a necessary measure to maintain control. Their colleagues listened, some chuckling, others just shaking their heads. This was Miller's reputation after all. Suddenly, the door swung open. The precinct captain walked in, his face grim. Behind him stood a woman in a crisp, perfectly tailored major's uniform. Her insignia gleamed under the fluorescent lights. Her expression was ice cold. It was Sarah. A stunned silence fell over the room. Miller's coffee cup froze halfway to his lips. Davis's face went pale. They stared at the woman they had harassed and assaulted just 24 hours earlier, now standing before them not as a civilian, but as a high-ranking officer from Internal Affairs, Major Sarah Jenkins. Her eyes scanned the room before landing directly on Miller and Davis. "Officer Miller, Officer Davis," she said, her voice dangerously calm and ringing with authority. "My office, now." The walk to the captain's office was the longest of their lives. The smirks and bravado had vanished, replaced by cold, creeping dread. Inside, Sarah sat behind the captain's desk, a file open in front of her. Her own dash cam footage was already playing on a monitor. She let them watch the entire encounter in silence. Every condescending word, every unnecessary escalation, culminating in the shocking moment Miller struck her. The video ended, and the silence in the room was deafening. "I was on a personal day," Sarah began, her voice cutting through the tension. "I was off duty, in my personal vehicle, waiting to pick up my 10-year-old brother. I wanted to see, for myself, what an interaction with local law enforcement was like for an ordinary citizen." She paused, letting her words sink in. "And you, gentlemen, provided a very illuminating demonstration." She looked at Miller. "You falsified your reason for the stop. The sign was barely visible and unenforceable. You were aggressive, unprofessional, and you assaulted a civilian. You assaulted a fellow officer." Then her gaze shifted to Davis. "And you, Officer Davis, stood by and did nothing. Your silence makes you complicit. Your duty is to uphold the law and protect citizens, not to stand by while your partner breaks it." Miller, finally finding his voice, started to stammer. "Major, it was a misunderstanding. She was being uncooperative." Sarah slammed the file shut. "Uncooperative. I have the entire incident on video, officer. It shows me complying with every single one of your lawful commands. The only thing I didn't do was cower in fear when you decided to use your badge as a license to bully someone." The captain, who had been silent until now, spoke up. "Miller, Davis, hand over your badges and your service weapons. You are both suspended, effective immediately, pending a full investigation, which," he added, gesturing to Sarah, "will be led by Major Jenkins." The color drained completely from their faces. Their careers, their reputations, their entire worlds were crumbling around them. They had picked the wrong person to bully. They had slapped a woman who had the power, the evidence, and the resolve to hold them accountable. As they were escorted out of the office, disgraced and defeated, Sarah remained seated. This wasn't about revenge. It was about principle. It was about ensuring that the people entrusted with power were worthy of that trust. She had experienced the system from the other side, and now she was in the perfect position to fix it. Her work was just beginning. The arrogant officers had learned their lesson the hard way, and the department was about to undergo a long overdue reckoning, all because they slapped the wrong woman. What do you think about this story? It's a powerful reminder that accountability is crucial, and that true strength lies not in intimidation, but in integrity. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss our next story. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.